for part B, let's see how you did. So we want to solve by square rooting. If you want to solve by square rooting, you need to have one thing squared. So in this case, what would normally happen in a question like this, if it just said solve, is you'd probably try factoring first and realize that nothing works. Then you would go and say, well, I could complete the square. If I want to complete the square, I first need my equation to look like this. So I'm going to divide everything by a negative 5. I'm dividing everything by a negative 5. Gets me a fraction, which is not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. And then I get just a 1x squared, which is what I want. I have a 2x. I'm going to leave this space, and I'm going to move the 2/5 to the other side, and leave a space there as well. Because that 2x is giving us the hint. There's only one thing that we can square. Well, it obviously has to be an x to get the x squared, but what number would be here so when you square it, your outside and your inside make the +2? It would have to be a +1. And if it's a +1, in order for this to match up, we need a +1 there, and if we add 1 to that side, we add 1 to this side. Again, adding 1 to that to the right side, I have to think about fractions, change my 1 to 5/5. Are you okay if I do that in my head? And do 2/5 plus 5/5 is 7/5? Oh, I wrote this low down. There we go. So x plus 1 squared is equal to 7/5. And now we can square root both sides. Remember the plus or minus. And we square root this whole side. So we square root the fraction. And the textbook has the answer at the bottom of the page like this. Because they're assuming that you haven't, or they're saying you might not have done the square root unit. However, since we've done the square root unit, we've learned in the square root unit that you're not allowed to have square roots on the bottom of your fraction. And technically, this is square root of 7 over the square root of 5. So we still need to simplify this based on our radicals unit, saying that you're not allowed to have square roots on the bottom, so we have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying by square root of 5 over square root of 5. This would give us -1 plus or minus the square root of 35/5. And then technically this isn't simplified because you haven't added things together. You need to write your final answer as a single fraction. So I'll change this 1 to 5/5. And then I would have a common denominator. And I could write this as one single fraction with a common denominator. So, an answer is simplified when, and now we've got about 100 things that are all included in simplification. It needs to be written as a single fraction. No square roots on the bottom. So, things are getting complicated that way. But this idea of completing the square so that we can square root both sides is very important. Did I give you questions last time on these ones? What are they? 10 and 11? Perfect.